Hello, welcome to my new video. In today's video we are going to be seeing how to deploy our Docker image on AWS EC2 Instance and also configure a domain or a sub domain for that web application. So we are going to be doing a number of things. One of them is creating an EC2 instance. We are also going to configure the network for that instance. We are also going to pull our Docker Hub image to this instance, install Nginx, and then configure the web server so that we are able to access our web application on a domain name or a sub domain name. Alright, so previously we have seen how you can deploy your Docker image on a free web hosting service that is Render, and we were able to make things work with just a click here and a click there, and we had a subdomain working. Alright, so for this particular video we will have some hands-on experience in navigating through the Linux system and getting things done. So this is a step-by-step guide, and I'm sure you will enjoy and get the concept right. Okay, so in here I'm already logged into my AWS account, and we also have some other tabs. We have Cloudflare ready to receive the DNS configuration. We also have the Docker Hub account open here with the image that I want to use for this particular demonstration. Alright, so we will be using one of my subdomains to deploy this application, and I want that subdomain to be this particular one. Alright, so for now it's not reachable. Probably the DNS are not configured well. Probably no website is there to show up, but we are going to make this subdomain work. Alright, so back to our AWS account, we need to either click on this EC2. We want to visit the EC2 dashboard so that we can spin an instance. Alternatively, you can search for EC2 here. Alright, if you have used it severally, then you'll be able to see it in the recently visited tab. Alright, so let me click on that, and here you can just click on instances, the running instances, and so in this dashboard now instance is currently running. So then I can launch one through this button here. Click on that. Then once we do that, we can give it a name here. Let me name it Docker Web. I think that will be good enough. Then the next thing we need to select is the application and OS image. So in my case I will be using Ubuntu. That is selected. Then we don't need to change anything here. Let's proceed. For the instant type, we also don't need to change anything here. We're going to use t3.micro. Then for the key pair, I don't plan to log in using my local machine, so I can proceed without a key. But if you intend to be accessing this instance using or rather from your local machine, then you need to create a new pair or select an existing one if at all you had one already. So in my case, I'll proceed without a key pair. Then for the network settings, for now we can ensure we have enabled HTTPS and HTTP traffic. Alright, then we can proceed. We will be adding some more configuration to this later. So configure storage, we leave it as default. Then we don't need anything in the advanced details. So we just want to make it simple. Then there's a summary of what we have, and we can just click on launch instance. Right, So just give it some few seconds and it will be ready. Alright, so in some few seconds our instance has been launched. Let's click that, and we already see that our instance is in a running state. Alright, so I would want us to connect to this, but before then let me just click on this instance ID. Alternatively, to connect, you can simply click on this checkbox and then connect here, but I need more information of this instance. Alright, so then let me just connect from here, and I will be accessing some of this information later. Alright, then let us just proceed. Alright, after some few seconds we have been able to get this. So let me just clear the screen. So we have been logged in as the Ubuntu user. That is the default user that we get when we spin an instance and use the Ubuntu image. Alright, so in here I would want us to set up Docker very quickly. We have already covered this in a previous video. See the link above. Alright, we are going to do that. So let me just confirm what is in the current directory, and I'll be adding a script here that will enable us do some task meant to set up Docker on our machine, and I'll be using nano. Let me just use doc sh. Right, so with that I'll be adding some lines of code here. Right, so once you create that script, then you need to change the permission. So by doing that, we are giving it the permission to execute. Then we can run that script, and let's give it time to complete. Alright, once we are done, let me clear the screen. We'll be installing Docker packages and Docker Compose. So let's do that. We are going to do that using that command. Press enter, confirm yes. Alright, so at this stage I believe Docker has been installed, but not everything will be working as expected. So we can just try to query and see if we are able to see a list of running containers, that is Docker PS. Alright, we see that permission has been denied. Let me clear the screen again. Let me rerun that. So permission is denied. So what if we use sudo? Alright, we see we are able to do that, but we don't want to be using sudo every other time. So how do we do that? Let's do that. Basically, this is meant to add the current user to the Docker group so that we are able to run the Docker commands without using sudo. And by doing that, we need to activate that group so that it can sync the new changes. Alright, so let's try again. Let's try Docker PS. Nice, and we are able to see that. Then you can do Docker images, and we are also able to do that. So at this stage, we have been able to configure and set up Docker. Alright, so the next thing is to run our container, and we are going to do that. We are going to use this particular image here. Alright, so let's see. So we are going to have Docker run, then we can give it a name. Let's be kind enough, so we can name it DTech. Alright, then we are going to do that in the detach mode, and we are going to expose these to port 8000, mapped to the exposed port 8000 on the image, and we can now paste in the name of the image. And in this case, we are not going to use the latest image. We are going to use 2.0.0. So the latest image has a slight error, and which is on purpose, but this particular one doesn't have the error. So this command is meant to run this particular image to create a container from that, give it this name, and it will run it in the detach mode, and also export port 8000 to the internet. So once we have that, let's press enter, and checks locally. If it doesn't find the image, then starts fetching it from the online repository if at all it exists. So let's give it time. Alright, so at this point we are sure that our Docker is up and running, so we can try to check, and we see that the image status is up for 7 seconds. Alright, so we need to check if you are able to access this Docker application using the IP. So the IP, we click on this and try to access it here. Okay, so one, remember we have used a port. So in this case, if we try accessing it through the default port 80, we don't get anything. So again, we also need to have port 8000 there. So this port 8000 is the one that we have added when running this container here, so this particular port here. Alright, so let's do that. And again, we are not also able to access it through this. Reason being, we have not yet exposed this particular port. Alright, so let's come back to our instance information, then scroll to the security section. Then we have these options here, the inbound, the outbound. So let me just click on this particular launch wizard, so that takes me to the security dashboard with the settings for this particular security group. So click on that, then scroll. We have the section of the inbound and outbound. So let's click here, edit inbound rules, and we are going to expose port 8000 here. Alright, so it's a custom TCP. Then here we are going to input 8000. Then here we select that block, and that should work. Then save the settings. Then back here, as you can see, we have actually been able to load that site. Right, we are able to access our website or our web application using the IP. But then we want to access these using our domain or subdomain, and this is the subdomain that we want to use. So the next thing that we need to do is to install and configure Nginx. So Nginx is a web server that will assist in routing the traffic to this subdomain or domain. Alright, so the way to do that, let's do an update. Right, if everything is okay, then we can install Nginx, and we can have the Y flag to just proceed without necessarily asking us whether to install or not. Right, so after some few minutes, the Nginx has been installed, and we are going to check. Let us check. So sudo, we have systemctl, and we have status Nginx. Right, and we see that Nginx is active and running. Alright, so the next thing is to add some configuration files for our specific subdomain or domain, and the way to do that, we are going to have this. Right, then we need to add some configuration settings there. Alright, so here we want to resend to port 80. Once we get any traffic from this port, then we are going to use this domain name or subdomain. Then for this proxy pass, we need to have the local IP and the port on which our web application is running on. So in this case, we have to remove the 0 and have it running on port 8000. Alright, so if you have some multiple applications, you'll need to create multiple configurations, have the same code, but then adjust the server name and the port of the local IP. So in this case, this is what we have and this is what we need. Alright, so once we do that, we need to save, and we do that by Ctrl X to exit, then confirm save and confirm the name. Alright, So once we do that, we can create a link of the default Nginx configuration to the configuration that we have added. So the way to do that is the way to do that. Alright, so we have created that link, and then we need to test if at all the configuration is working. And the way to do that, we have sudo nginx and we do a test. Alright, so if everything was set up correctly, this should work. And something else that I need to mention, the configuration settings that we have here is for a domain name that doesn't require SSL, or the SSL is configured externally. So for this particular video, we are working on a subdomain or domain that has its DNS on Cloudflare. So we will still do another video of a domain name that doesn't use Cloudflare and needs a setup of SSL on our instance. So for now, SSL will be taken care of by Cloudflare here. Alright, so back to our instance, let us exit, and once we confirm that everything is working, that is, we have confirmed that the Nginx settings are okay, that is why we got this. Otherwise we would have gotten an error and probably gotten the error log to show us what is not working. Alright, so the next thing that we need to do, we need to ensure that our domain or subdomain is pointing to our IP. So this is the public IP. Alright, so in this case I'm using this public IPv4 address, and it's simply because it's for demonstration purposes. Otherwise, in a live production or in an application that you do not need to destroy shortly after testing, you need to assign an elastic IP. Otherwise, this IP, if you are to stop this instance and run it again, this IP will change. So it's not recommended for production. It's basically because we are currently doing it on to test how things work here. Alright, so there is a particular IP that we are going to take to Cloudflare, and we need to edit this particular subdomain. So let's have that. Alright, so the good thing with Cloudflare, propagation happens in seconds or minutes. Alright, so basically after doing all these, after confirming that everything is working as expected, then it's highly recommended to restart the Nginx service. So we have sudo systemctl, we have restart Nginx. Alright, and just to make ourselves happy, we can simply check the status. Not necessary though, as long as we have restarted it without getting any errors, then we can be sure that our Nginx web server is running. Alright, so I think it's time to confirm if our subdomain is reachable, and there we go. We have been able to access it on our domain name. And the advantage of using, one of the advantages of using Cloudflare is that we have a free SSL in place. We haven't done anything much to get this done. We just need to tell Cloudflare to have our domain configured to have SSL, and also to have traffic redirected to HTTPS. So this is our application in some very quick steps. We have our application deployed, so we can navigate through. So everything is working as expected. Alright, so if you had some multiple applications, you would have created let me clear the screen. History. You would have created another application using the same command, but changing the variables, that is the name, the port here. No two applications can run on the same port, and also the image here. Once you do that, you need to create another configuration file here. Probably you can use So just have everything as you have up to this point, then change to the domain or subdomain, then rerun this command, but this time using the new subdomain here or domain, then everything should be working as expected. Then also ensure to set up your DNS accordingly. So that's it. That's it for this video. We have successfully been able to do quite a number of things, and our end goal was to be able to access this particular website here. So thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also drop your thoughts. This will motivate us to produce the next video for domains that are not managing the DNS on Cloudflare. Thank you.